Imagine this: a classroom, a young Muslim child, and an atheist professor who thinks he has all the answers. The debate is intense, the questions are challenging, and the atmosphere is thick with tension. But then something happens. Something that no one could have predicted. With a simple yet profound answer, the child silences the professor, leaving everyone in the room in awe. What could have possibly been said to shut down the unshakable logic of an atheist professor? What was it that struck at the core of belief in such a powerful way? This is a story that you need to hear. A story that will leave you thinking long after it's over. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll realize that sometimes it's not the complexity of the argument that makes the difference, but the simplicity of faith. This is the kind of story that challenges everything you thought you knew about belief, logic, and the power of a single statement. So, get ready to be moved, inspired, and maybe even a little bit changed. There is a certain purity that exists within children, a simplicity that allows them to see the world in ways that adults often cannot. They aren't weighed down by societal complexities or the hardened biases that many of us accumulate over time. Their minds are open, untainted by doubt and preconceptions. This is a key point that the story of the Muslim child silencing the atheist professor demonstrates so profoundly. The child's argument, rooted in logic and simplicity, shows that often the most powerful truths are the ones that come from a place of innocence and clarity. This story is a reminder that purity of thought is not just a metaphor, but a real asset when engaging with profound and difficult questions. When the Muslim child used a simple but compelling analogy involving milk to answer the atheist professor, it wasn't just an act of intellectual argument. It was a representation of the power of truth when it is expressed in its most straightforward, unadulterated form. Children haven't yet been corrupted by the complexities of adult life. They see things as they are, and they speak from the heart without the interference of hidden motives or advanced arguments. In a world that has often complicated even the simplest truths, this child's logic, born of innocence, cuts straight through to the heart of the matter. The story reveals how sometimes the most complex debates are often best addressed with the simplest perspectives. The child's logic, in this case, wasn't built on layers of academic knowledge or sophisticated rhetoric. Instead, it was built on a core understanding that every human being is born with an inherent capacity to seek the truth. The truth is often buried beneath the noise and distractions of life, but when we strip it down to its basics, we realize that it's a matter of clear and simple understanding. The professor, an adult immersed in his own thoughts, perhaps found it difficult to see this simple truth. Because as adults, we tend to look at everything through a lens of complication and sophistication. But the child's simplicity pierced through that veil of complexity. This is where the true power of a child's mind lies. The simplicity of a child's thoughts often carries a truth that is undeniable, not because it is shallow, but because it cuts through the layers of bias and ego that adults are bound by. Children do not yet have a reputation to protect or an intellectual empire to build. They simply speak because they believe in the truth of what they are saying. When this Muslim child spoke, it wasn't with the goal of winning an argument or making someone feel small. It was simply to express what they truly understood. And in this simplicity, the child taught a profound lesson. The world is so often driven by the need to be right, to prove a point, and to dominate a conversation. But the child, in their innocence, didn't need to prove anything. They just spoke the truth as they knew it. And that truth spoke louder than any rhetoric or argument. It is also important to recognize that this innocence is tied to a deep connection with faith. The Muslim child was not just speaking from a place of intellectual curiosity, but also from a place of spiritual certainty. Faith, in this sense, becomes the foundation for truth. The Muslim child's logic wasn't just academic, it was rooted in their understanding of the world, a worldview shaped by their faith. This is why the child's argument resonated so deeply. It wasn't just a clever idea or an intellectual strategy. It was the embodiment of a deep connection to something greater. This brings us back to the point that children, when untainted by the complexities of the world, can sometimes have the clearest and most direct path to the truth. In this way, the Muslim child's argument is a call to revisit the power of simplicity, of being able to articulate truths without the need to complicate them. The purity in thought and the clarity of vision that children possess is something we should all aspire to. It teaches us that sometimes the most powerful responses to complex questions are the ones that come from the heart and from a place of innocence. The Muslim child's logic silenced the atheist professor, not because the argument was particularly sophisticated, but because it was pure, direct, and rooted in a simple truth that anyone could understand. And in that simplicity, the child demonstrated the profound power that innocence and clarity can have in the face of skepticism and doubt. The atheist professor in this story represents a mindset that many people adopt after years of exposure to intellectual arguments and philosophical debates. Over time, people like this professor begin to rely on their knowledge and logic to shape their worldview. Their thoughts and beliefs become entrenched in the complex web of reason, skepticism, and the need for validation from other intellectuals. When they encounter a situation where their beliefs are challenged, they often approach the challenge with a need to assert dominance over others. For them, it is about proving that their way of thinking is superior, and that anyone who challenges it is either misinformed or lacking in understanding. This mindset, while effective in academic settings, tends to blind people to the simplicity of truth, which is often overlooked in the pursuit of proving oneself right. The professor's reaction to the child's simple argument is a reflection of how people who are too absorbed in their intellectual superiority often miss the beauty and power of simple truths that do not require extensive explanation or justification. In the case of this story, the professor's primary goal was not necessarily to explore the truth, but to maintain his intellectual pride and position in the classroom. As an atheist, he likely believed that the universe and life's complexities could be explained through science, logic, and reason. The professor may have also seen his role as one of teaching others that belief in God or religion was irrational and unnecessary. For him, the fundamental truth of existence was rooted in materialism and the scientific method. When the Muslim child presented the argument based on milk, it was a direct challenge to this rigid worldview. The child's simplicity and purity of thought, paired with a profound belief in something beyond the physical world, caught the professor off guard. The professor, with all his years of academic experience, was unable to refute the child's logic because it was based on something far deeper than reason alone: faith. What the professor failed to realize, and what the child demonstrated so brilliantly, was that there are truths in this world that cannot be understood through the lens of logic and reason alone. Some of life's most profound and meaningful aspects, like faith, love, and purpose, exist outside the boundaries of empirical knowledge. The professor's reliance on logic prevented him from seeing the child's argument for what it truly was: a reflection of a truth that exists beyond the material world, one that is not confined to the limitations of reason. The milk analogy, simple as it was, carried with it a message that could not be debated or disproven. The child's argument was rooted in the belief that there is a higher power, one that governs the universe and provides meaning and purpose to all life. This kind of faith, which is often seen as illogical or rational by those who prioritize empirical evidence, is a truth that goes beyond human understanding. This disconnect between the professor's worldview and the child's simple yet profound argument is a powerful illustration of the limitations of intellectualism and skepticism when they are detached from faith. The professor's intellectual knowledge, though vast, could not address the child's core message, which was founded on spiritual wisdom. In this moment, the professor learned a valuable lesson. No matter how much knowledge or reason one possesses, it can never replace the power of faith and the truths that lie within it. The child, with their clear and simple perspective, demonstrated that sometimes the greatest truths cannot be grasped by intellect alone. They must be experienced and understood through the heart and soul, where faith and belief take precedence over reason and logic. The professor's failure to respond effectively to the child's argument highlights a broader issue that many people face when they encounter worldviews different from their own. In a world that often prioritizes logic and reason, the importance of faith and simplicity is too often overlooked. The story of the Muslim child silencing the atheist professor serves as a reminder that while knowledge and intellect are valuable, they must be balanced with humility, openness, and an understanding that not all truths can be explained by science or reason. Some of life's most profound and powerful truths exist beyond the material world, and it is embracing these truths that we find deeper meaning and purpose. The power of simple faith is something that often goes unnoticed in a world that has become increasingly focused on intellectualism and materialism. The professor's worldview, which is rooted in logic, science, and reason, represents a common belief system that prioritizes empirical evidence and skepticism over spiritual or metaphysical truths. For many, this kind of thinking offers comfort because it provides a sense of control and certainty about the world. Everything is explained through laws, theories, and data that can be proven and tested. However, this mindset, while valuable in understanding the physical world, often leaves little room for the intangible aspects of life such as faith, love, purpose, and meaning. It is within these very aspects that the true essence of human experience often lies. And the Muslim child's argument serves as a powerful reminder of this. The simplicity of the child's logic, based on a basic truth of creation and the existence of a higher power, serves as a sharp contrast to the complexity of the professor's worldview. While the professor may have been searching for intellectual or scientific explanations for everything around him, the child found clarity in a simple belief. The child's response, centered on the idea of milk being provided by God, is profound in its simplicity. It bypasses the need for complex theological arguments or philosophical reasoning and instead speaks to the heart of the matter. The recognition that everything in existence is a gift and that it is through divine providence that we are sustained. In this case, the child's response transcends the intellectual complexity of the professor's beliefs, offering a perspective that is deeply rooted in faith and spiritual understanding. This is where the power of faith truly shines. Faith is not something that needs to be proven or rationalized. It is something that is felt, experienced, and believed with the heart. The child's belief in the existence of a higher power and the acknowledgement that the milk was a gift from God was not something that could be explained or disproven through logic. It was a truth that existed beyond reason. A truth that resonated deeply within the child's soul and was evident in their response. This powerful simplicity is what makes faith so profound. It is not bound by the limitations of intellectual reasoning, but instead opens the door to a deeper understanding of life, one that goes beyond the confines of empirical evidence and scientific explanation. The professor, despite his intellectual prowess, was unable to comprehend this simplicity because his worldview was rooted in the belief that everything could be explained through reason and observation. For him, the child's argument was not just illogical, but also absurd. The professor had spent years cultivating his understanding of the world based on facts and evidence, and in doing so, he had dismissed anything that could not be explained through these means. However, the child's response was not meant to be understood in a logical sense. It was meant to speak to a truth that is felt rather than proven. It was a truth that transcended intellectual reasoning and touched upon the deeper aspects of human existence, faith, spirituality, and the recognition that life's greatest gifts come from a higher power. In a world that often values intellectual achievement and scientific progress above all else, the child's argument serves as a reminder that there are truths in life that cannot be understood by the mind alone. These truths are felt in the heart and experienced through a deep connection with the divine. Faith, while often seen as irrational or unsubstantiated by those who rely solely on logic, offers a perspective on life that is rich with meaning, purpose, and understanding. It provides answers to the existential questions that science and reason often leave unanswered. Through the child's response, we are reminded that sometimes the greatest truths are not those that can be measured or proven, but those that resonate with us on a deeply spiritual level. The story of the Muslim child silencing the atheist professor with the simplicity of milk logic is a powerful example of the importance of faith in human life. It challenges the idea that intellectualism and reason are the only valid ways of understanding the world, and invites us to consider the deeper, more profound truths that are revealed through faith. The simplicity of the child's argument, which does not rely on complex reasoning or philosophical debate, offers a refreshing perspective on life and the universe. It encourages us to reconnect with the simple truths that exist beyond reason and intellect, and to embrace the power of faith in shaping our understanding of the world around us. The contrast between the professor's highly intellectual, logic-driven worldview and the child's simple faith-based response highlights a significant cultural divide that often exists between the intellectual elite and everyday individuals who possess deep-rooted beliefs in spirituality and religion. This contrast is not merely an academic difference, but rather an ongoing philosophical debate that has existed for centuries. The professor's reliance on science and evidence, while undoubtedly valuable in understanding the natural world, can sometimes lead to a dismissal of subjective experiences and spiritual insights that do not fit neatly within empirical frameworks. This often results in an oversimplification of human experience and a failure to recognize the deeper aspects of existence that science alone cannot explain. The professor's inability to accept the child's reasoning is a reflection of this mindset, where anything that cannot be measured or scientifically proven is considered invalid or irrelevant. The professor's thinking operates within a system that requires observable proof, which works wonderfully for understanding physical phenomena. But the more complex and intangible dimensions of life, such as human emotions, consciousness, purpose, and spirituality, do not always lend themselves to empirical validation. This can lead to a narrow understanding of the human experience that overlooks the richness of belief, emotion, and personal connection to something greater than oneself. On the other hand, the child's response, based on a simple yet profound belief in the existence of a higher power, draws attention to a fundamental truth: that not everything that matters in life can be scientifically quantified or reduced to logical terms. Faith, in this case, serves as a way of knowing that transcends the intellectual capacities of the mind. While the professor may have dismissed the idea of God providing milk as simplistic or naive, the child's belief represents an alternative way of understanding the world, one that acknowledges the limitations of human knowledge and embraces the unseen, the unknown, and the divine. In many ways, the child's response invites a deeper reflection on the importance of humility in intellectual pursuits. It calls attention to the fact that no matter how much we know or how advanced our technology becomes, there will always be mysteries and experiences that elude our understanding. These mysteries, often associated with the spiritual or metaphysical, are not easily captured by the scientific method, and yet they play an essential role in the lives of billions of people around the world. The child's faith offers a reminder that life is not just about what we can see, measure, or prove. It is also about the unexplainable moments of grace, love, and connection that give life meaning. The professor's rationalism, when confronted with the simplicity of the child's faith, reveals a limitation in the intellectual framework that he holds so dearly. While reason and logic are powerful tools for understanding many aspects of the world, they cannot always provide answers to the most profound questions that humans ask. Why do we exist? What is the purpose of life? How do we explain moments of deep connection or transcendence? These are questions that go beyond the scope of scientific inquiry and touch upon the core of human experience. The professor, though undoubtedly intelligent and well-versed in his field, is unable to answer these questions in a way that satisfies the deeper yearnings of the human soul. In contrast, the child's faith offers a simple yet profound explanation, one that goes straight to the heart of the matter. Everything, from the milk that nourishes us to the air that we breathe, is a gift from a higher power. This encounter between the child and the professor serves as a poignant reminder that intellectualism, while valuable, should not overshadow the importance of spiritual and emotional wisdom. The child's faith, grounded in the belief that God is the provider of everything, reflects a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of life and the divine. It acknowledges that no matter how much we understand about the world, there are still mysteries beyond our grasp, and that it is not only acceptable but essential to embrace faith in these mysteries. At the heart of this moment is a deeper message, that there is more to life than what we can see and prove with our eyes. Faith allows us to access a deeper dimension of reality, one that is not bound by the constraints of logic and reason. While reason has its place in understanding the physical world, it cannot explain everything that gives life meaning. The child's argument serves as a powerful reminder of the value of faith, spirituality, and the recognition that some of life's greatest truths are found not through the intellect, but through the heart and soul. The clash between the child's simple faith-based perspective and the professor's reliance on logic and reason underscores a profound commentary on how people perceive and engage with the world around them. The professor, in his intellectual world, operates under the assumption that everything must be proven through observable evidence and logical deduction. This mindset is one that prioritizes what can be seen, measured, and tested. It seeks to make sense of the world through a framework that demands proof and dismisses that which cannot be empirically validated. For many in the intellectual community, if something cannot be demonstrated through science or logic, it is either unimportant or simply does not exist. However, this perspective excludes an entire realm of human experience that cannot be quantified or reduced to simple facts. Love, purpose, emotions, and spirituality, though deeply meaningful aspects of life, do not lend themselves to the same kind of empirical scrutiny that science and logic require. And yet, they are no less real. The child's simple but powerful belief in the idea that milk, or any nourishment for that matter, comes from God challenges the professor's reliance on reason alone. The child's logic is not founded on empirical evidence, but on the deep faith that underpins the very foundation of many religious teachings, the belief that a higher power governs and provides for everything. This tension between faith and reason exposes the limitations of a purely rational worldview. For the child, the idea of milk being a gift from God is not a proposition to be tested or disproven. It is a truth grounded in faith. It is an understanding that goes beyond the confines of scientific inquiry and taps into a deeper knowledge that cannot be reduced to facts or figures. The milk the child speaks of symbolizes all that is good, nourishing, and sustaining in life. Things that, while necessary and real, often elude scientific explanation. What the child understands, in essence, is that some of the most meaningful aspects of life are beyond our ability to fully understand or explain, yet they remain integral to our existence. This dynamic also raises questions about the role of faith in shaping how individuals view the world. For the child, faith is not something to be proved, but rather something to be lived. It is an intrinsic part of how the child understands their relationship with the world and the divine. The milk that nourishes the child becomes a metaphor for all the ways in which life is sustained by forces beyond human control. The child's ability to recognize that this nourishment comes from a higher power is not based on scientific proof, but on a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. This perspective is one that sees the divine in every moment, in every act of kindness, and in every sip of milk. The professor, however, in his attempt to dismiss the child's belief, reveals the limitations of an intellectual framework that seeks to rationalize and control every aspect of life. He may be well versed in facts, but his inability to recognize the validity of faith-driven reasoning demonstrates a narrowness in his approach to understanding the world. The child, by contrast, is able to embrace the mystery and beauty of life in a way that the professor, with all his knowledge and reason, cannot. The professor's rejection of the child's perspective reflects a broader issue within intellectual circles, one that often ignores or dismisses faith, spirituality, and personal belief in favor of cold, hard logic. This interaction highlights the importance of balancing reason with faith. While logic and reason are essential for navigating the physical world, they are not the only tools through which we come to understand our existence. Faith provides a lens through which we can view the world beyond what can be empirically measured. The child's simple response illustrates the power of faith in providing answers to life's most profound questions, answers that reason alone cannot fully address. The milk in the child's analogy is a symbol of life's nourishment, not just physically, but spiritually as well. The child's belief in the divine origin of this nourishment speaks to a deeper truth, that life is not solely a product of science and logic, but also of belief, connection, and divine grace. In recognizing the limitations of pure reason, we begin to understand the profound role that faith plays in shaping our worldview. The interaction between the child and the professor serves as a reminder that some of the most important truths in life cannot be neatly packaged into logical arguments or scientific explanations. Faith allows us to tap into a deeper dimension of reality, one that transcends the limitations of empirical evidence. The child's perspective challenges us all to reconsider our approach to life's big questions, urging us to embrace not just the seen, but the unseen as well, and to acknowledge the deeper forces at work in our lives. The significance of this moment between the Muslim child and the atheist professor extends far beyond the realm of a simple conversation. It speaks to the broader cultural and philosophical divide between faith and skepticism, between the certainty of belief and the questioning nature of modern intellectualism. At its core, this interaction reflects the larger debate between religious conviction and secular reason. The child's response to the professor's challenge, though simple, carries a depth of meaning that many may overlook at first. It is a reminder that faith, despite its seeming simplicity, holds a power that cannot be easily dismissed, especially in the face of rigid, logical thinking. The child's belief in the divine origin of all nourishment, including milk, encapsulates a worldview grounded in spirituality and submission to a higher power. This is a worldview that doesn't necessarily require extensive empirical evidence to be valid. It is based on a deep-seated trust in a divine plan that exists beyond the physical world. Faith, in this sense, becomes a lens through which the child sees the world, a way of understanding that transcends what can be explained through logic or science. For the child, the concept of nourishment from God is a deeply personal lived truth that is unshakable. This conviction, rooted in spirituality, offers an alternative way of understanding the world, one that cannot be tested or proven in the same way as a scientific hypothesis, but is no less real. On the other hand, the professor represents the secular, scientific worldview, where everything is subject to scrutiny and rational examination. His skepticism reflects the modern intellectual tradition that prioritizes empirical evidence and reason over faith. For many in academia or the scientific community, if something cannot be observed, measured, or tested, it is not considered valid. The professor's attempt to challenge the child's belief in a higher power's involvement in something as mundane as milk reveals the limitations of a worldview that seeks to explain everything through reason alone. In his eyes, the idea of milk coming from God is an irrational belief, a relic of a bygone era that holds no place in a world that has long been shaped by science and reason. However, this moment between the child and the professor challenges that very notion. It serves as a reminder that there is much more to life than what can be empirically tested and verified. Faith, spirituality, and belief in a higher power are powerful forces that shape people's lives in profound ways, often providing them with a sense of purpose, hope, and guidance. These intangible qualities cannot be reduced to data points or equations, yet they are no less important than the scientific truths that we rely on to navigate the physical world. The child's ability to offer a simple yet profound response to the professor's skepticism illustrates that faith can offer answers to life's most complex and profound questions, even in the face of rigid logic. This exchange also highlights the danger of disregarding one perspective in favor of another. While reason and logic are essential tools for understanding the physical world, they are not the only tools available to us. By focusing exclusively on the material and measurable, we risk overlooking the richness of human experience that exists beyond the physical realm. Faith, for many people, provides the framework through which they make sense of life's mysteries, connect with others, and navigate the challenges they face. It is a source of comfort and strength, and it plays an integral role in shaping people's identities, values, and actions. The professor's challenge also illustrates a broader societal issue: how faith is often marginalized or dismissed in modern intellectual circles. In many ways, faith and religion are seen as antiquated, illogical, or even dangerous by those who hold fast to secular, reason-based ideologies. This divide between faith and reason is not a new phenomenon. It has existed for centuries. However, moments like this one between the child and the professor remind us that faith, in its many forms, remains a vital part of human experience. It is not something to be easily dismissed or ridiculed, for it holds great power in shaping people's lives and communities. What makes this moment so powerful is not just the simplicity of the child's faith, but the way it challenges the professor's worldview. The child's response is not born out of a desire to win an argument or prove the professor wrong. It is an expression of a deep belief that the professor cannot fully comprehend. It is a reminder that faith and reason, while often seen as opposites, can coexist and offer complementary insights into the human experience. In fact, it is often through faith that individuals are able to navigate the uncertainties of life, find purpose, and make sense of the world around them. In contrast, the professor's rejection of faith leaves him with only logic and reason, tools that, while valuable, cannot always answer life's deepest questions. Ultimately, this interaction speaks to the need for balance between faith and reason. While logic and science are essential for understanding the world in certain ways, they cannot explain everything. Faith, on the other hand, provides a lens through which we can interpret the world in a different light. The child's simple yet profound answer to the professor's challenge reminds us that there is a wisdom in faith that cannot be dismissed by reason alone. It is a wisdom that transcends the limits of empirical evidence and reaches into the heart of what it means to be human, to believe in something greater than oneself, and to recognize that not everything in life can be explained through logic or science. Faith, in its many forms, offers answers that reason simply cannot provide. As we reflect on this powerful encounter between the Muslim child and the atheist professor, it's clear that there is more to life than what we can understand through logic and reason alone. The child's simple yet profound answer serves as a reminder that faith, in whatever form it takes, has the power to shape our perspectives and offer answers to life's deepest questions. It challenges the notion that only what is empirically measurable has value, showing us that belief in something greater than ourselves can offer us hope, direction, and strength in ways that logic alone cannot. We must learn to appreciate the balance between reason and faith, recognizing that both play vital roles in shaping our understanding of the world and our place within it. The Muslim child's response wasn't an argument. It was a testament to the power of belief and the enduring wisdom of faith that transcends the confines of logic. It's a reminder that while science and reason can guide us, they cannot fill the spiritual void that belief can fulfill. In the end, it's the combination of faith and reason that can guide us to deeper truths, that can shape our identities and help us connect with others on a profound level. So, as we move forward in life, let us embrace the lessons that both logic and faith offer us, and let them work together to create a more complete understanding of the world and ourselves. Good luck to you all, and may your journey through life be filled with wisdom, faith, and the courage to stand firm in your beliefs, just as that child did. Thank you for joining us, and may you always find the strength to balance the faith within you with the reason you seek.